Defenders of the Earth.
I knew virtually nothing about the Defenders of the Earth before making this video, but their story is pretty remarkable, and I even discovered the origins of the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. You're gonna love where this goes. Hey y'all, welcome back to Carbon Scoring. I just got these Defenders of the Earth action figures in from Big Bad Toy Store, and I have been blown away by their quality and design. They're based on the 1986 cartoon of the same name, but their history goes back way further than that, all the way to the 1930s. These are some of the most influential characters in the history of science fiction.
Out of the sky, his rockets ignite. Jets into battle, flying faster than light. Flash Gordon.
I guarantee you are going to learn a ton in this video. And if you enjoy getting into the history of these action figures that we love, go ahead and hit like and subscribe to Carbon Scoring. We are dedicated to bringing you the best in comics history and action figures. And down in the description, we've got some helpful links for all the different things that I use to display my action figures and the things that I use to photograph them. So check that out. Enough of that. Let's dig into these toys. The main characters from Defenders of the Earth, Mandrake the Magician and his partner Lothar, the Phantom, and Flash Gordon, were all originally news strip characters from King Features Syndicate. King Features dates back to 1914 as part of William Randolph Hearst's newspaper empire and has produced such beloved strips as Blondie, Beetle Bailey, and Popeye.
Master of magic spells and illusion. Enemies crumble in fear and confusion.
Mandrake the Magician was created by Lee Falk in 1934 and is considered by most to be comics' first superhero. His powers included rapid hypnosis, invisibility, shape-shifting, and teleportation. That's pretty powerful. Mandrake is joined by his best friend and fighting companion, Lothar, the prince of the 7 nations of Africa. Possessing the stamina of 1,000 men, Lothar is impervious to harm and is able to lift an elephant with one hand. Premiering alongside Mandrake in 1934, Lothar is Africa's first hero to appear in comics. But it wasn't always pretty. Sometimes referred to as Mandrake's giant black slave, Lothar spoke pidgin English, wore a fez, and a leopard skin. It got better with time and his characterization improved, but even in the 1986 cartoon, he was described as a Caribbean ninja. Ugh, yikes. Mandrake and Lothar are set to join the line in the second series of figures, and I love that NECA included a picture of all of the figures in the line on the back of the packages. I wish every toy company would do this. If not pics, at least a checklist wish list like we got with our toy lines of the 80s. So let's look at that first wave of figures, starting with the ghost who walks, the Phantom. The Phantom was also created by Lee Falk and premiered in 1936 with his newspaper strip still running today. The Phantom's the 21st in the lineage of crime fighters passed down father to son. I must admit, my only knowledge of the character came from Billy Zane's 1996 portrayal.
Listen to your friend Billy Zane. He's a cool dude.
What is this, a ship full of women?
Put a cork in it, Zane.
While the Phantom had no superpowers on his own, he did set several precedents for all the heroes to follow, including skin-tight suits and a pupil-less domino mask. This figure is way better than a dude in a skin-tight purple suit deserves to be. While the costume is plain by design, the details on the belt and even the subtle addition of stubble to his face bring depth and detail to the figure. But far and away the coolest things are his rings. The Phantom wears the good mark on his left hand. This ring has 4 crossing sabers, and he leaves this mark on those under his protection. The right hand has the evil mark, a skull ring he uses to punch his enemies, leaving them with a skull-shaped scar. According to legend, the original owner of the skull ring was the Roman Emperor Nero, who had the ring made from the iron spikes used to nail Jesus of Nazareth to the cross. That is some hardcore stuff. Phantom also comes with a fist where a sweet blast effect can be seen to come from his ring. This is a super cool look. My only negative is that he comes with a space-age blaster instead of his twin M1911 sidearms, likely because this was based off the cartoon and not the original newspaper strip. And it's cool, I guess, that they included Zuffy, the snarf of this cartoon. But there is no way he's finding his way into my display. You've heard me say it time and time again. Heroes are only as good as the villains that they face, and the Defenders of the Earth have a Lex Luthor meets Doctor Doom level of bad guy in Ming the Merciless. First appearing in the Flash Gordon strip in 1934, he has remained the main antagonist in one form or another for almost 80 years. Ming's origins are pretty cringy today, as he's an example of yellow peril imagery, which commonly placed East Asians in villainous roles, with Fu Manchu being a classic example. It gets worse. His name is a clear reference to the Ming Dynasty in China, and his home planet of Mongo is an easy contraction of the term Mongol. Ming was described in an essay looking at the depiction of Asians on film as a slanty-eyed, shiny-domed, pointy-nailed, arching-eyebrowed, exotically dressed Oriental. Ooh. The cartoon does try to soften his image by changing Ming's skin to green and giving him a more alien appearance. But that Fu Manchu mustache remains ever present. I do appreciate a couple of nice touches by NECA on the packaging. First, much props for giving the creative team behind the figures credit. I also love the old school bio. Speaking of old school, this change in the NECA logo is a tip of the cap to Galoob, the company that made the very first Defenders of the Earth action figures back in the 1980s. Ming is one gorgeous action figure. The head sculpt is a work of art with deeply creased and menacing features. But the intricacies of his costume and the lavish paint application are what really steal the show. In keeping with his theme, he has dragon motifs on his belt, and he even comes with a dragon-headed staff. Huge rings highlight his twisted fingers. You don't need to know anything about this character to know that he's the bad guy. He even comes with a wired cape, allowing for billowing, dynamic posing. And on top of all of that, he can take a punch. And finally, we have the man himself, Flash Gordon. Oddly enough, Flash started out as a Me Too character. King Features was simply looking for a sci-fi strip to cash in on the Buck Rogers craze. So in 1934, in steps Alex Raymond. Raymond was a master illustrator, known as the artist, and his Flash Gordon quickly surpassed Buck Rogers in popularity. The great care he took with his art, matched only at the time by Hal Foster's Prince Valiant, was due in part to his working with live models. Raymond was constantly evolving, creating innovative page layouts while changing speech balloons to captions to allow more space for his intricate artwork. His influence was also far-reaching. Contemporaries Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster based Superman's tights and cape on a uniform worn by Gordon. And Bob Kane's first drawing of Batman on the cover of Detective Comics 27 was a straight rip of a 1937 Raymond drawing. Even Jack Kirby, the co-creator of the modern Marvel Universe, cited Raymond as one of his main influences. But perhaps his biggest influence was on a young filmmaker named George Lucas. Lucas tried to obtain the license to Flash Gordon in the 1970s, but unable to do so, he made his own space opera, borrowing heavily from the themes of the pulp films of his youth. It turned out okay. But my memories of Flash Gordon are mostly based on this. This is absolutely one of my favorite movies from my childhood, and it's remarkable how faithful to Alex Raymond's source material the film remains. And few things have ever freaked me out like this scene.
No help from Flash Gordon here.
Flash Gordon? By the way, that's a compliment.
NECA has done a spectacular job of bringing Raymond's vision to life. This is the polo-playing Yale man that he had envisioned. Just look at the sculpting of that hair. Perfection. And here, the blaster just feels right. Flash is a man of action, and this figure allows you to recreate scenes directly from the newspaper strip. Now, NECA figures always have their problems. Some of the joints were really tight, and the paint comes off when you switch the hands, and Flash has a permanently upturned left toe. But I think these figures are spectacular, and their backstory is even better. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. While I was researching the influence Flash Gordon had on Superman, I came across some interesting facts about the original Captain Marvel, who was easily Superman's equal in terms of popularity in the 1940s. There was an only child growing up poor in Tupelo, Mississippi, whose favorite superhero was Captain Marvel Jr. That kid would grow up to become the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley. Elvis seemed to base his style on the young hero. Even his penchant for half capes on stage was a clear homage to Captain Marvel Jr. And the insignia for Elvis's personal motto, taking care of business in a flash, well, you tell me where that came from. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, check out the links in the description, and come back for more comics history and action figures here at Carbon Scoring.